The stars were quiet in the Kepler system, just as they had been for 300 years. Captain Kess floated in the command chair of his ship, the Starwind, watching the endless black through the view screen. His reptilian skin shifted from green to blue, a sign of boredom that his crew knew well. "Sir, we have something strange on sensors," called out Lieutenant Vex from the navigation station. The young Vorthan's tail twitched with excitement. "It's big, and it's not moving." Kess turned his large yellow eyes toward the screen. A shape appeared in the distance, dark against the stars. It was clearly a ship, but unlike anything he had seen before. The hull was smooth and white with strange angles that seemed to bend light around them. Red symbols were painted along the sides, symbols that made his blood run cold. "Get Dr. Wheelix up here," Kess ordered. "Now." Dr. Wheelix arrived, within minutes her insect-like body clicking as she walked. The Zephyrian scientist had 6 arms and compound eyes that could see things others missed. She took one look at the screen, and her antennae began to vibrate. "By the old gods," she whispered. "Those symbols, I've seen them before." "Where?" Kess demanded. "In the ancient texts, the forbidden ones." Elix's voice was barely audible. "These are human markings." The bridge fell silent. Every crew member knew the stories. Children across the galaxy grew up hearing tales of the humans, the mysterious race that had vanished long ago. They were said to be clever beyond measure, fierce in battle and impossible to predict. Most believed they were just myths, stories told to frighten the young. "Take us closer," Kess ordered. Slowly, the Starwind moved toward the derelict ship. As they got nearer, more details became clear. The ship was massive, easily twice the size of their own vessel. Scorch marks covered the hull and several sections were torn open. Whatever had happened here, it had been violent. "I'm reading no life signs," reported the sensor officer. "The ship appears to have been dead for decades." "Any power readings?" "None, sir, but the hull is intact enough for boarding." Kess made his decision. "Prepare a boarding party. Dr. Elix, you're with me. I want to know what we're dealing with." 20 minutes later, Kess and his team floated through the airlock of the human ship. Their suits' lights cut through the darkness, revealing corridors that were clearly built for creatures their size. The walls were covered with more of the strange symbols, and everything had a clean, purposeful look. "The design is so different," Elix observed, running her scanner over a control panel. "Look at these interfaces. They're made for creatures, with only 2 arms, but the complexity is incredible." They moved deeper into the ship, finding room after room of equipment they couldn't understand. The technology was clearly advanced, but it was unlike anything in consortium space. Where alien ships used curves and flowing lines, this vessel was all straight edges and precise angles. In what appeared to be the ship's library, they found their first major discovery. Thousands of data storage devices were arranged on shelves, each one labeled with the same strange symbols. Elix connected her scanner to one of the devices and gasped. "Kess, you need to see this." The scanner's screen filled with images and text, pictures of a blue and green world orbiting a yellow star, creatures that walked on 2 legs with 4 limbs and smooth skin, cities that stretched to the horizon, filled with impossible towers of metal and glass. "The translation software is working," Elix said excitedly. "These symbols spell out words. This world is called Earth. The star is called Sol. And these creatures, they call themselves humans." Kess studied the images. The humans looked small and weak compared to the mighty Vorthan or the armored Nixari. Their technology seemed primitive in some ways, yet the ship around them was proof of capabilities beyond current understanding. "Keep reading," he ordered. More files opened, revealing the truth that would change everything. The humans had not vanished at all. They had left, launching massive fleets into deep space to find new worlds. The ship they stood in was part of something called the Third Expeditionary Fleet, tasked with establishing colonies far beyond their home system. According to this log, Elix reported, they lost contact with Earth over a century ago. Something about solar storms destroying their communication network. But the fleet continued its mission, establishing 12 new colonies before beginning the return journey. Return journey? Kes felt his skin shift to a pale yellow, the color of fear. You mean they're coming back? That's what it says here. This ship was damaged in an accident and left behind, but the main fleet continued toward home. Toward what? Is now consortium space. The implications hit Kes like a physical blow. If the humans were real, if they were returning, then all the old stories might be true. Stories of a race that never gave up, that adapted to any situation, that turned every disadvantage into a weapon. They spent hours in the derelict ship copying every file they could find. The humans had been gone for over 300 years, but their colonies had thrived. The fleet returning to Earth would be larger and more advanced than the one that had left. Back aboard the Starwind, Kes stared at the data they had collected. Battle reports from human conflict showed tactics that defied conventional military doctrine. Individual units acting independently, adapting to situations in real time, using creativity and improvisation to overcome superior numbers. Sir, Lieutenant Vex called out from his station, we're receiving a priority message from command. They want us to investigate energy readings near the Tau Ceti mining colony. Kes felt his skin shift again. What kind of energy readings? Unknown. Type, sir. The miners report strange ships on their sensors, but when they go to investigate, the ships disappear. The captain looked at Dr. Willix, who was still studying the human data. Doctor, in your opinion, what are the chances these sightings are connected to what we found here? Alix's compound eyes reflected the bridge lights as she considered. Based on the fleet's projected return timeline and the stories of human stealth capabilities, I would say the chances are very high. Kes made his decision. Set course for Tau Ceti, maximum speed. He paused, then added, and send a coded message to Consortium Command. Tell them we may have a problem. As the Starwind jumped to hyperspace, neither Kes nor his crew realized they were already too late. The human fleet had been watching them from the moment they boarded the derelict ship. Hidden in the darkness between stars, hundreds of vessels waited with the patience of predators. The legends were real and they were home. Admiral Jake Sullivan stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, watching the star charts that showed their old home. After 120 years in deep space, they were finally returning to Earth. But the space around their home system was full of alien ships that didn't belong there. Sir, we have the intelligence reports from Captain Morrison's scouts, said Lieutenant Commander Lisa Parker, stepping up beside him. She held a data pad filled with information about the creatures that now lived in human space. Jake took the pad and read through the reports. 7 different alien species had formed something called the Kepler Consortium. They had divided up human territory and built colonies on worlds that Earth had claimed centuries ago. What was worse, they seemed to think humans were just old stories. They call us legends, Jake said, shaking his head. Myths to scare children. Maybe that's good, Lisa replied. They don't expect us. They're not ready for us. Jake looked out at the stars where his fleet waited in the darkness. 300 ships had left Earth's colonies, loaded with families returning home and soldiers ready to fight. They had traveled for decades to get here, only to find strangers living in their house. Get me Captain Morrison, Jake ordered. Danny Morrison appeared on the communications screen. His scout ship Wayfinder had been sneaking around alien space for weeks, gathering information about their new neighbors. Danny looked tired but excited. Admiral, you need to see what we found, Danny said. These aliens are advanced, but they fight like machines. Everything is planned out ahead of time. No creativity, no adaptation. They would never survive against human tactics. What about their numbers? Jake asked. They have us beaten there, maybe 3-to-1 advantage in ships, but sir, their crews are trained to follow orders, not to think. We could use that against them. Jake nodded. Human military doctrine had always been different from what he was hearing about the aliens. Human soldiers were taught to think for themselves, to adapt when plans went wrong, to find creative solutions to impossible problems. It had served them well in the colonies where every day brought new challenges. Any word from the diplomatic front? Jake asked Lisa. Lisa pulled up another report. I've been monitoring their communications. There's a scientist named Dr. Willix who found one of our old ships. She's trying to convince their leadership that we're real and returning, but most of them don't believe her. What about the different species? Are they all united? No, sir. The reptile people called Vorthens want to fight. They think they're the strongest. But the crystal beings called Nexari seem more interested in peace. The bug-like Zephyrians are split between the two groups. Jake studied the information. Maybe there was a way to avoid a full war. If some of the aliens wanted peace, perhaps they could find a solution that didn't involve destroying everyone. Sir, came a voice from the communication station. Captain, Chen is reporting contact with an alien patrol. Jake's blood went cold. Put her through. Amy Chen's face appeared on screen. She was commanding the scout ship Pathfinder, one of their fastest vessels. Behind her, Jake could see sparks flying from damaged equipment. Admiral, we've been spotted, Amy reported. An alien patrol ship found us near the Tau Ceti system. I had to make a choice between running and fighting. I chose to fight. What's your status? We're okay, but their ship is disabled. Sir, it was almost too easy. They came at us in a straight line, no tactical movement at all. When we started maneuvering, they couldn't keep up. Their weapons are powerful, but they can't hit what they can't predict. Jake felt a mix of relief and worry. Relief that Amy was safe, but worry about what would happen next. Any survivors on their ship? Yes, sir. They're trying to repair their communications. I estimate they have maybe 6 hours before they get a message out. Fall back to the fleet. We need to prepare for what comes next. Within hours of Amy's encounter, the alien communications networks lit up like fireworks. Every species in the consortium was talking about the return of the legendary humans. Jake's intelligence team intercepted hundreds of messages, and the translations painted a clear picture. Fear. The aliens were terrified. Listen to this, Lisa said, playing a recording from a Vorthon military frequency. The myths are real. The humans have returned just as the old texts warned. Their ship moved like nothing we have ever seen. How do we fight legends that refuse to die? Another message came from a Nexari council meeting. We must seek peace with the humans before it is too late. The old stories speak of their mercy to those who do not oppose them, but their ruthlessness to those who do. But not all the messages spoke of fear or peace. Admiral Krex, the supreme commander of consortium forces, sent out orders that made Jake's jaw clench. The human threat must be eliminated before it can grow. I am mobilizing every ship in consortium space. We will not allow these primitives to reclaim what is now rightfully ours. Sir, said Commander Rick Hayes, Jake's intelligence chief, our long-range sensors are picking up massive fleet movements. It looks like they're gathering near the border systems. Conservative estimate is 3,000 ships. Jake felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders. 3,000 ships against his 300. But numbers weren't everything. His people had survived in deep space for over a century, adapting to alien worlds and impossible situations. They had learned to make the most of what they had. Contact all ship commanders, Jake ordered. We're going to teach these aliens why humans don't stay legends for long. Captain Morrison's scouts reported back with detailed information about alien ship designs and tactics. The aliens relied heavily on automated systems and predictable attack patterns. Their ships were powerful but slow to adapt when situations changed. They're like chess players, Morrison explained during a strategy meeting. They plan their moves in advance and stick to the plan even when it stops working. But we're poker players. We know when to bluff, when to fold, and when to go all in. Jake looked around the table at his officers. Lisa Parker, the scientist who had become their expert on alien cultures. Rick Hayes, the intelligence officer who could find weakness in any enemy. Danny Morrison, the scout captain who could slip through any defense. Amy Chen, the tactical genius who had already proven human superiority in single combat. The aliens. Think we're legends, Jake said. Stories from the past that can't hurt them. But legends have power. Legends inspire fear. And sometimes legends come true. He stood up and activated the fleet-wide communications. All ships, this is Admiral Sullivan. For over a century, we've been building new worlds, raising our families, and proving that humans can survive anywhere. Now we're home, and we find strangers in our house. They think we're just old stories. Let's show them what humans really are. The human fleet began to move. Admiral Krex stood in the command center on Vorthan Prime, his massive form towering over the holographic display that showed the entire consortium fleet. 3,000 ships from 7 different species, all under his command. His yellow eyes burned with confidence as he watched the fleet positions. "The humans are a myth that has lasted too long," he declared to his assembled officers. "Today we end the legend forever." The reptilian admiral's tail swept across the floor as he pointed to the display. "Our scouts report only 300 human ships. We outnumber them 10 to 1. This will be a quick victory." But not everyone in the room shared his confidence. Elder Zara of the Nexari Council stepped forward, her crystalline body catching the light from the displays. "Admiral Krex, perhaps we should attempt communication first. The old texts speak of human wisdom as well as their warfare." Krex's skin shifted to a darker green, showing his anger. "The old texts are stories, Elder, nothing more. These humans are flesh and blood, and flesh can be destroyed." Meanwhile, on the human colony of New Denver in the Kepler 442 system, Colonel Nick Foster was reviewing the colony's defenses when the attack began. The settlement was home to 30,000 civilians who had been living peacefully for decades, farming and mining the rich world they had made their home. "Colonel, we have multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace," shouted Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez from the communications center. "Consortium flags. They're not responding to our hails." Nick grabbed his rifle and ran to the command bunker. Through the reinforced windows, he could see the sky filling with alien ships. The lead vessel was massive, easily the size of a city, with weapons that glowed with deadly energy. "All civilians to the shelters," Nick ordered. "Activate all defense systems. Send a message to Admiral Sullivan. Tell him New Denver is under attack." The first bombardment came without warning. Energy beams struck the colony's outer buildings, turning metal and stone into vapor. Nick watched in horror as the school where his own daughter had learned to read was destroyed in seconds. "They're targeting civilian areas," Sam reported, his voice tight with rage. "They're not even trying to hit military targets." Nick felt something cold settle in his chest. The aliens weren't just attacking a military outpost. They were trying to massacre innocent people. "Return fire, all weapons. Make them pay for every meter." The colony's defense guns opened fire, sending streams of energy toward the alien ships. The humans had learned to build their weapons to be flexible, able to adapt to different targets and situations. The alien ships, expecting easy victory, were caught off guard when the defense systems began tracking and hitting them with deadly accuracy. But there were too many of them. For every alien ship the humans destroyed, 3 more took its place. Nick watched the tactical display and knew they couldn't hold out much longer. "Sir, we have a priority message from Admiral Sullivan," Sam called out. Jake's voice came through the speakers, calm and steady despite the chaos. "Colonel Foster, help is on the way. Hold your position. Do not let them take New Denver." "Understood, Admiral," Nick replied. "We'll hold." In space above New Denver, the human defense fleet was vastly outnumbered. Captain Amy Chen commanded the carrier Intrepid, launching fighter squadrons against the alien armada. Her pilots, led by Commander Steve Walsh and Lieutenant Kelly Brooks, flew like demons through the enemy formation. "These aliens fly like they're following a script," Steve reported over the radio. "They can't adapt when we change tactics." Kelly's squadron dove through the alien formation, striking at their command ships. They cluster their important vessels together. Makes it easy to find targets. But even human skill couldn't overcome such overwhelming numbers. One by one, the defense ships were being destroyed. The colony below was running out of time. On Vorthan Prime, Admiral Krex watched the battle with growing satisfaction. "You see? The humans are nothing special. Their colony will fall within the hour." But Dr. Willix, monitoring the battle from her research station, saw something different. "Admiral, look at their casualty ratios. We're losing 3 ships for every human vessel destroyed. At this rate, even victory will cost us heavily." Krex dismissed her concerns with a wave of his clawed hand. Acceptable losses. The humans cannot replace their ships. We can. What the Admiral didn't know was that Dr. Wilex had been secretly communicating with Dr. Lisa Parker aboard the human fleet. The two scientists had been working together, sharing information about their respective species and trying to find a peaceful solution. The attack on New Denver changes everything, Lisa told Ilex during one of their hidden conversations. Your people have killed human civilians. There can be no peace now until justice is served. Wilex felt her antennae droop with sadness. I tried to warn them. I tried to make them understand what humans were capable of when threatened. But they wouldn't listen. The battle for New Denver lasted 18 hours. When it was over, the colony was in ruins. But it hadn't fallen. Colonel Foster and his people had held their ground against impossible odds, buying time for Admiral Sullivan's fleet to arrive. Jake's ships dropped out of hyperspace like avenging angels. The Liberty led the charge, followed by dozens of human warships that had traveled across the galaxy to come home. The alien fleet, exhausted from their long battle with the colony defenses, found themselves facing fresh human forces. This is Admiral Sullivan to all consortium forces. Jake's voice, broadcast across all frequencies. You have attacked our civilians. You have destroyed our homes. You have awakened something you should have left sleeping. The human fleet moved like a pack of wolves, coordinated but flexible, each ship adapting to the battle as it developed. The aliens, trained to follow rigid battle plans, couldn't cope with the constantly changing human tactics. Admiral Krex, came a panicked voice from one of the consortium ships. The humans are using tactics we've never seen. They're hitting us from angles that shouldn't be possible. Krex watched his carefully planned formation falling apart. Impossible. They're just primitives with inferior numbers. But the evidence was clear on his displays. Human ships were working together in ways that defied military doctrine, supporting each other, covering weaknesses, and exploiting every opening the aliens left. Dr. Ilex watched the battle and felt a chill run through her insect body. The old texts were right, she whispered. Humans don't just fight wars, they become war itself. On the surface of New Denver, Colonel Foster emerged from his bunker to see the alien fleet retreating. The sky was filled with the wreckage of both human and alien ships, but the colony had survived. Sir, Sam reported, Admiral Sullivan is requesting a full report on casualties. Nick looked around at the ruins of the colony he had sworn to protect. Thousands of civilians were dead, killed by aliens who had attacked without provocation. The peaceful life they had built was gone, replaced by the harsh reality of war. Tell the Admiral, Nick said, his voice hard as steel, that New Denver sends its regards to the consortium, and tell him we're ready for whatever comes next. The legends were no longer sleeping. The Battle of Proxima Station began at dawn, ship time. Admiral Jake Sullivan stood on the bridge of the Liberty, watching as the largest space battle in galactic history unfolded before him. On one side, Admiral Krex commanded what remained of the consortium fleet, still over 2,000 ships strong. On the other side, Jake led his 300 human vessels, battered but determined. All ships, this is Admiral Sullivan, Jake broadcast to his fleet. Today we fight not just for our right to exist, but for every human child who will never see their home again because of what happened at New Denver. Make every shot count. The human ships moved forward in a formation that looked chaotic to alien eyes, but made perfect sense to human commanders. Each captain was free to adapt their tactics as the battle developed, supporting their neighbors while seeking opportunities to strike at the enemy. Captain Amy Chen commanded the carrier Intrepid, launching wave after wave of fighters into the Yi, alien formation. Commander Steve Walsh led the first squadron, his pilots following him into the heart of the enemy fleet. Remember what we learned, Steve told his pilots over the radio. They can't handle unpredictable movement. Don't fly where they expect you to be. Lieutenant Kelly Brooks dove her fighter toward a massive Vorthan battleship, weaving between its defensive fire with movements that seemed impossible. Their targeting systems can't keep up, she reported. It's like they've never seen real combat flying. But the aliens had one last surprise. From the center of their formation came a ship larger than anything the humans had ever seen. The void render was 3 miles long and bristled with weapons that could destroy planets. It was Admiral Krex's ultimate weapon, designed to end the human threat once and for all. All human ships retreat, came the panicked voice of a consortium captain who had defected to the human side. That ship can crack worlds in half. You cannot fight it. Jake looked at the massive weapon bearing down on his fleet and felt something cold in his stomach. The ship was too big, too powerful. But then he remembered the faces of the children at New Denver, and the cold feeling turned to fire. "Chief Martinez," Jake called to his engineer. "Can we do anything about that monster?" Tony Martinez looked up from his instruments, sweat beading on his forehead. "Admiral, I might have an idea. It's crazy, but it might work. That ship is so big, it has to have massive power systems. If we could overload them somehow." "Do it," Jake ordered without hesitation. Meanwhile, Dr. Lisa Parker was working with Dr. Willix to coordinate the defection of moderate consortium forces. Several Nixari ships had already switched sides, along with some of the smaller species who were tired of Vorthon dominance. "The Zephyrian Third Fleet is requesting permission to join you," Illix reported from her hidden location. "They never wanted this war." "Welcome them," Lisa replied, "but keep them away from the main battle. We can't risk friendly fire incidents." The Void Render began charging its main weapon, energy building up along its massive hull. Jake knew they had minutes before it could fire, and when it did, his entire fleet would be destroyed. "Martinez, whatever you're doing, do it faster," Jake ordered. "Working on it, sir. I need to get close to that ship, real close, and I need a distraction." Captain Danny Morrison's scout ship Wayfinder was the fastest vessel in the human fleet. "Admiral, I can get the chief close enough, but it's going to be a one-way trip." Jake felt his throat tighten. Danny had been with him since the beginning of their long journey home. "Danny, you don't have to—" "Yes, I do," Danny interrupted. "This is what we came home for." The Wayfinder accelerated toward the massive alien ship, drawing fire from hundreds of weapons. Danny flew like a man possessed, dodging energy beams and missiles while Chief Martinez worked frantically in the engineering section. "I've got it," Tony shouted. "If I can get close enough to their main power coupling, I can reverse the polarity on their own weapon. It'll tear the ship apart from the inside." Danny pushed his ship harder than it had ever been pushed, the hull groaning under the stress. 60 seconds to the target. Tony, you better be ready." At that moment, Admiral Krex appeared on the communications screen, his reptilian face twisted with rage. "Human Admiral, I challenge you to single combat. Winner takes all. Loser watches their species burn." Jake looked at his officers, then at the tactical display showing the Void Render preparing to fire. "I accept." "Sir, you can't," Amy protested. "It's obviously a trap." "Maybe," Jake agreed, "but it's also an opportunity." Jake took a shuttle to the Void Render, leaving Captain Chen in command of the fleet. The massive ship's hangar bay was filled with consortium soldiers as Jake stepped out of his shuttle, alone and unarmed as the challenge required. Admiral Krex waited in the center of the bay, his massive form towering over the human admiral. The reptilian commander was twice Jake's size, with claws that could tear through steel and skin that could stop small weapons fire. "So," Krex hissed, "the legendary human admiral comes to die." "One of us will die today," Jake agreed calmly, "but legends don't die easy." The fight was brutal and short. Krex relied on his size and strength, trying to crush the smaller human. But Jake fought like humans always fought, using speed and intelligence against raw power. When Krex charged, Jake stepped aside and struck at weak points. When the alien tried to grab him, Jake slipped away and attacked from unexpected angles. The watching soldiers saw something that day that would be talked about for generations. They saw a small human defeat, a creature 3 times his size through nothing but skill, determination, and the refusal to give up. As Krex fell, Chief Martinez completed his sabotage of the Void Render. The massive ship's own weapon turned inward, and the pride of the consortium fleet tore itself apart in an explosion that lit up half the system. The Battle of Proxima Station ended with the surrender of the remaining consortium forces. The aliens, who had thought humans were just old stories, learned the truth. Some legends are real and some legends fight back. 3 months later, Lisa Parker stood in the newly built human embassy on Nexari Prime, signing the Proxima Accords that would reshape the galaxy. The treaty recognized human territorial claims while protecting alien species that chose to coexist peacefully. "Dr. Parker," said Elder Zara of the Nexari Council, "what will humans do now that the war is over?" Lisa looked out the window at the ships in orbit, human and alien vessels flying together in peace. "What we've always done. We'll adapt, we'll build, we'll survive, and we'll remember." Captain Amy Chen, now promoted to Admiral, led the first joint human-alien patrol through the former war zone. Her crew included officers from 6 different species who had learned to work together. "Admiral?" asked her Zephyrian tactical officer. "The old story said humans were legends. What should the new story say?" Amy smiled as she watched the stars through the view screen. "Tell them we were never legends. We were always just human, and that's enough." The fleet turned toward home, toward Earth, carrying the news that humanity had returned to the galaxy to stay.